but we're going to go ahead and talk about the admissions funnel. And we've had conversations about admissions before, but we're really going to put a little bit of a marketing spin on it because that's our expertise here at Nido Marketing and Montessori Thrive, and how you can really support the prospective parent from the very beginning of the admissions process all the way to the end, to make it seamless for them and seamless for you as well. So I put together a presentation. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Also, feel free to ask questions in the chat. We'll address all of those. And towards the end, we'll also have time to for you guys to unmute if you wish to ask questions or just share your experiences with admissions. But I'll go ahead and share my screen now. I think it's here. Oh. I'm having, Camille, do you happen to have it pulled up? Because I think I don't know why I'm not able to share for some reason.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Already having technical difficulties.
Camilla has a brand new computer, so.
I've had a bit of a computer nightmare this week. I've had to replace my computer. I think it's private. It's a privacy problem.
Okay, present. All right. I don't usually use Canva, so we've got this little issue going here. So
let me see. I think I should be able to correct it.
Sorry about this, everyone.
I think I got it, Camille. I think
okay.
it should. Oh, here we go. It's working now. Our apologies. My apologies. Are you guys able to see my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, there we go. Okay, so yeah, we're going to take a deep dive into the Montessori admissions funnel. Montessori is a really interesting space for the admissions process. I think every school model has a unique process. So we're going to take a deep dive into the Montessori version of it. You know, this is a great time to kind of consider, when was the last time you took a deep dive into your own admissions funnel or process at your school and really analyzed what you guys are doing to support the prospective parent each step of the way. In the world of marketing, we would say the admissions process is really the initial user consumer experience. It's normally the first experience a prospective parent is going to be having with your school, whether it's finding you through Google My Business, looking at your website, looking at you through social media. It's kind of the first glimpse that they get into getting to know you. So there's so many things that you can be doing to enhance this process for them and make it as seamless as possible. And this is really important nowadays. So here's kind of just the admissions funnel model. The reason it's a funnel is because parents will start to weed themselves out if they don't feel like, your school provides the right services for their family. If maybe they don't feel like they're a right fit, they'll start to take themselves out throughout the process. So it starts to kind of go down until you get the very, very bottom portion, which is the enrollment. So we're going to talk about each of the 6 steps and how you can really maximize your communication with prospective parents at each step, and what you can do from a marketing perspective and from a leadership perspective as well. So the very top stage is awareness. This is time to be seen as a school. And this is an exciting stage as well, because it's the very beginning. Parents have a whole journey ahead of them. So let's get into what they're kind of going throughout this process. So awareness is represented by the very top and the widest point of the admissions funnel. You're probably going to have the most prospective parents at this point. And really what prospective parents are aware is that they need childcare and education for their child. That's the problem that they need to solve at this stage. They know that they need to find a place that is well suited for their child. They may not necessarily be aware of your solution quite yet. They may be new to Montessori. They may not know the philosophy or what it looks like. But what they do know is they need a school for their child. Prospective parents are looking for thought leadership. They need to be guided through this stage as well. They're looking for schools that kind of look like they have it together, that have concise programs. They're kind of just looking for something that makes sense for them. This is a stage where you can really speak to their pain points. At the end of the day, they're looking for childcare and education, and you offer that. And that's really going to kind of interest them in this very early stage. So highlight the fact that you are solving this problem for them at this stage. You have what they need at this particular step. So what can you do to help them at the awareness stage and guide them to the next step of the funnel? So really what you want to focus on this very early stage is to capitalize on your communication efforts and help parents along to the next stage. A great way to do that is to run targeted ads on social media or Google Ads. If you're doing this already, it's great because what happens is that then parents see you repeatedly over and over again when they're searching for schools. It starts to kind of, they kind of absorb it as they're going through different schools. They're seeing your school a little bit more. They kind of build that element of trust. In marketing, we call this the rule of 7, but really with how many ads people see on a day-to-day basis now, it's much more than 7 times that your school needs to be seen in order to really have a sense of retention for parents who are on the lookout. So running ads can really help you during this phase. You just want to make sure to be consistent with your ad spend and targeting, and to monitor your campaigns if you can to make sure they're working effectively. Another big thing that you can do, and this is free to set up as well, is to utilize Google My Business so parents can easily find your school's location, opening hours, reviews, and school website. Being easy to find and easy to access is really key at this stage. You want to be, front and center. You want parents to be able to see your opening hours and to be able to contact you if necessary. Another great thing that you can do at this stage is to start a referral program so that your current families can go out and recruit prospective parents and build awareness across your local community. You may already have some sort of referral program in mind. Maybe you offer some sort of special discount for any families who bring in new families. But it's great to have that because you're kind of spreading it through word of mouth and through people who are actually experiencing what it's like being in your school community. But overall, you really want to focus on, just overall school awareness and consistent communication and just being easy to find. So if you've done that successfully, parents can then take the next step in that funnel. They know what they need to know to move forward, and they enter the interest stage. So they might, have just become a little bit more interested in your school. You've got their attention. So now what can you do to really maximize during this step? So, this is a really fun and critical stage because you've piqued the parents' interest, and now it's time for them to explore a little bit about what you have to offer, and a little bit more about Montessori in general as well. So they're aware of your school and services, and they want to start diving deeper into your offerings. At this point, they're still examining all their options. They might not be looking specifically at Montessori schools. They might be looking at other daycare models as well, or school models, but they become interested enough to come in and learn more. This is a great stage to kind of start educating parents on Montessori. Talk about why it's a model that works, how it could work for new families, prospective families, and educate them. Kind of smash the misconceptions about Montessori as well that prospective parents may have heard through the grapevine, but maybe are not accurate when it comes to actual Montessori education. So it's your opportunity to kind of take control of that and become a thought leader. Prospective parents at this stage, they tend to ask a lot of what we like to call cocktail party questions. They're very, simple on the surface questions, maybe like, what are your hours? They might be interested at this point in tuition as well, but they're not going to be kind of the more in-depth Montessori topic questions. Those will come later in the funnel for parents who decide to dive deeper specifically into the Montessori model. So let's talk about what you can do to really kind of move them along further into the interest stage, into the next stage of the funnel as well. So really a great thing to have on your school website is to have a blog. And we talk about this at several of our meetings, how important it is to have a blog on your website. But the reason that it's so important, especially in the admissions process, is that parents get to learn about Montessori directly from you. So then you become a thought leader. You almost become an authority to those parents who are then learning about Montessori education. You're telling them firsthand, this is what Montessori looks like. This is how we set up our math. This is how we have our, this is what practical life actually looks like and the benefits of it. So your blog allows you to kind of explore those options, and parents can quietly from their computer just kind of, I don't want to use the word stalk, but really they can go in and explore your website and learn that information directly from you. Parents love to do this and take a deeper dive. So providing them with the space to do that is really beneficial at this stage. Another great thing that you can do is provide detailed program information. And the key is to do it in a way that is actually relevant to the parent, the prospective parent. You don't want to write too much text, because if a parent goes on a website and just sees paragraphs upon paragraphs of content, it's going to be a bit intimidating. So break it down, just highlight, these are the benefits of the Montessori environment. It's peaceful, it encourages independence. You can show some pictures of your beautiful environment, and break down kind of a little bit about what they're learning and how they move on to the next stage of life. It's great to have good and concise information at this stage. And also talk about how you're solving their problem. Not only are you solving their need for education and childcare, but the fact that Montessori has so many benefits. So they're getting a problem solved and also receiving a lot of great benefits. And that's really how parents are thinking at this stage. Another thing that you can do is have a strong social media presence, have a place for parents to continue looking into you and exploring what you offer. Parents, especially nowadays with the internet being such a prominent place, they love to learn more about your school. They like to see what daily life is about. You don't have to post every day, but it's nice to have kind of an updated social media feed where parents can see what activities your school participates in, what it would feel like to be a part of your school community. A little bit more about how a blog will really make you a thought leader is that by having a school blog, you're becoming the direct source of that information. So, you never know, parents might even be sharing your blogs around with other parents. All of a sudden they're thinking, oh, I read this incredible blog about the benefits of Montessori from this school. It kind of, especially if they're looking at other Montessoris, it kind of pushes yours over the edge because you're offering all of this great parent ed support directly on your school website. It builds trust as well because, it's great that parents can come and learn about Montessori and parenting from your school website. It makes your website a great resource and asset. Another thing is, and I just want to highlight, be sure to keep your blog fresh and updated. Nothing looks worse than a parent going on and seeing that you have, 3 blogs from a year ago. It doesn't really reflect well on you as a school. So we always say, if you feel like a blog is too much for your school at this point, you don't have the resources or the time to build one out yet, just don't have one at all and wait until you can kind of have a consistency with your blogging, whether it's 1 blog a month, once every 2 weeks. You just want to make sure that you're able to refresh that content. It also helps with Google. It helps with SEO because search engines love refreshed content, especially videos and pictures. So just for any of those schools who are running Google ads or things like that, having a refreshed and relevant blog is going to actually help your campaigns in the long run as well. And like I said, parents love to explore and discover what's on your website. If you have a beautiful website, it's an asset to your business.
Yeah,
so if I have,
sorry, to say a little bit more about blogs.
Of course.
They serve a lot of other purposes too for marketing. And this isn't really specific to the funnel, but when you publish a blog, you can then publish that to all your channels, all your social channels and everything, and say, hey, we just wrote this great blog article on whatever. And it gives people a reason to come back to your website. And the other nice thing about them are, as you consistently publish, then what you're doing on your website is building a library of sort of these articles, not sort of, they are articles about different aspects of Montessori. And that library just grows and grows with each new blog post. So even though for, say, your description on your primary program, you probably want to keep that to be, a few paragraphs, not, a huge long dissertation about that, that level. But if somebody had some specific interest about something and you happen to have a blog article on that and you had a good search function on your website, then they can, for those parents that really want to dig in and find out, the information is there. So it just, it's sort of a stealth way to have a lot of information on your website that's organized by topic. So there's just a lot of positives to it. And, everything else that Camilla said is absolutely also true with SEO and keeping your website fresh and all of that. And it does establish you as an authority on what Montessori is and all these different aspects. So that's all I wanted to add.
Yeah, and all of those are amazing points as well, because you really can use it as an archive of useful information. Imagine if a prospective parent asks a question and you can answer it and also say, oh, I have an extensive blog if you really want to dive deep on this, that answers all the questions you may have on practical life or what math looks like in the Montessori classroom, and you can refer them to a blog. So it really is great to have as much information archived on your website as possible. All right, so if you do have that great content, information, you have social engagement, you have a well-designed website, all of that is really going to help those prospective parents be able to move even further down the funnel, which is exactly what you want them to be doing. And they're going to start moving from interest to genuine consideration of your school for their child. So now they've decided, you know what, maybe Montessori is the right choice for me after all. Now, what can I do now? So this is, right in the middle of the funnel. It's a sandwich stage. They've, become interested enough to actually genuinely consider your school and taking action and making a conversion, as we call it in marketing, on your website. So maybe reaching out to you, contacting you, or just taking an important action here. So parents at this stage, you'll be dealing with, parents who have, for the most part, already done their research and are looking, like I said, exclusively at Montessori schools. They've maybe looked at other daycares. They may have looked at Waldorf schools in their area as well. And they've said, you know what, I've narrowed it down to the fact that I love Montessori. There might be, 2 or 3 Montessori schools in the area, and those are the ones I want to tour. They may be making some ghost engagements with your school. They're, maybe reading through your blog. They might be, circling back to your website, rereading your program information. They're, kind of like, do I take an action? Do I schedule a tour? This seems like it's really interesting to me. And prospective parents also may want to dive a little bit deeper. And they might actually be willing at this point to hand over their contact information to you in exchange for valuable information. So how can you turn consideration into a form of action or intent at this stage, which is really what you want them to be doing? What really sets your school apart from the rest? What is going to send your Montessori school over the top in comparison to other Montessori schools in your area? Really highlight this at this stage. Another great thing you can do is offer valuable lead magnets on your website, because this is where parents are willing enough to engage with your school and learn more, that they might be willing to hand over their email information, which is really important at this stage. Offer parent education as well. Some lead magnets that are great, and we'll talk about those, are checklists, parenting tip guides, etc. We have a few examples as well down the line that I'd like to highlight. It's great to consider having a CRM built into your website as well, if you don't already, or have some sort of automation that allows you to build on your relationships with your prospective parents. So when they do hand over those contact informations, you can actually have a process to guide them along the admissions funnel. Make it as easy as possible for parents to schedule a tour as well, using online scheduling. And I'll show a sample of we have a Nido site, which is a sample of the school websites that we recommend for Montessori schools, or the web design overall. So I'll kind of give a tour of that as well. But if it's easier for them to schedule a tour at another school, guess what? They might actually just do that if it's less of a hassle. If they have to call you to schedule a tour and you guys are, they have to then check your office hours and then you don't answer and then they have to follow up, guess what? They're going to probably go on the tour to the school that has automatic scheduling first. And that kind of already puts you at a little bit of a disadvantage. So consider those things when you're building out your tour scheduling process. It's great to have it front and center as well. So this prospective parents know exactly where they need to go to schedule a tour. Because I think we all know as Montessorians that what really sells people on Montessori is when they see the classrooms, when they see the environment, and when they see the peace and tranquility in our classrooms. So I want to talk a little bit about lead generation at this stage, because it's really a great thing you can have on your website that's free, and it's essential for capturing contact information at this stage. We see we have some questions in the chat. I'm going to go over. We use HubSpot, all online scheduling for tours. Yep. That is an option. HubSpot is really general for multiple it's for all business models. It's also great. There's, as Camille said, we have a CRM for our clients. So if you have a website through us, you might be able to also get that CRM built into it. But it's great to have one specifically for schools as well. It just depends on your school model and what you're comfortable with. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about lead generation, because I think a lot of people may not know what this looks like or may not have lead generators on their website, and they could be missing out on capturing those important contact information. So what is a lead generator? We also call it a lead magnet. It really is just a way to initiate consumer interest and inquiry into product or services of a business. So what does this mean? You're offering something valuable on your school website, such as really the biggest lead generator is your tuition, gating your tuition information. Parents really want to know that. Or also just some fun parenting information, articles on Montessori, really in-depth, extended program information for parents who really want to dive deep. A scope and sequence maybe might be a good lead generator as well for parents who are interested in looking at the curriculum. And in exchange for downloading that important information, all they have to do is enter their name and email address. And then you have their email address so you can follow up with them after they visited your website and ask them if they would like to schedule a tour. And this is really important in the admissions process nowadays, because parents are looking at so much information online. It's really going to set you kind of to the top of their list possibly. So it's definitely worth doing. So if you don't already have lead generators on your school website, you might actually be missing out on these visitors who are making ghost engagements on your website, because they might be visiting your blog and reading. But how much nicer would it be if you were able to send them an email saying, "Oh, I saw that you're requesting our tuition information. If you would like to schedule a tour with us, here's a way you can do that." And you're doing it very personally in a way that's friendly and approachable. Also, if you're giving out very valuable information, again, it sets you apart as a thought leader, and you're helping them make an important decision. So what makes a good lead generator? Really, it comes down to value and delivery. These are the two things you want to remember if you do choose to have lead generators on your website. So what this looks like is, first of all, it solves a problem for the parent. Selecting a school is a difficult decision that a parent will have to make. So help them by saying, we have a problem, we can solve your problem here. It's informing them as well. So it actually gives them further information on Montessori, really in-depth information that helps them make a more educated decision on their child's future education. And it also is given to the prospect quickly, and this comes with delivery. So make sure that you have, if you do choose to have lead generators, don't have a parent hand over their email and then you have to go in there manually, and maybe you might send it to them 8 hours later because they've already forgotten about it by then, and then they'll see it and they'll be like, this is weird that it came 8 hours later. You want to make sure you have automations built into your website so that when they hand over their email information, the content that they've requested is automatically delivered to their email inbox. This builds trust, and it just makes things a lot more convenient and makes your school look very on top of it. Here are just a few that we have. We have a collection of white papers and lead generators on Montessori Thrive for those of you who are members that you can download and use on your school website if you wish. You can tweak them if you want to make edits as well. This is just a little screenshot of some. We have much more than this in our library, but just some ideas out there that might be fun. You have a common sense guide to checking childcare references. Some parents might be considering having a nanny, so having that kind of checklist might make it harder for them to find a nanny, and then they might consider your school over that. A common sense guide to choosing a Montessori school as well. You're becoming the authority, and then when they go to other schools, if they downloaded this document from your website, they're then using your model to compare the other schools, which is going to put you kind of, again, as an authority. So these are all really smart and witty things that you can offer on your website that will kind of set your school above the rest during the admissions process and help people move further down the funnel. Here's just an example of what it looks like on the Nido site. And I would like to do an actual run through of the site at the end of the presentation as well, but here's just an example of what it could look like. So here you have Montessori or conventional, what's best for your family, read the white paper, enter your first name and email. Also, I'm going to take this as an opportunity to say that you want to make sure that you have as little fields as possible for the parent to fill out in order to get that information. So see, we've just done it, first name and email. If you start adding, address, phone number, all of that information, it becomes kind of less attractive for the parent to sign up for it because they're like, I have to fill out too much. People are pressed for time and busy. So it's best to just keep it simple. All you really need to capture is their email address in order to follow up with them anyways. Another thing that you might want to consider for your school is automated tour scheduling. And if you have our CRM, you probably already have been working with this for a while because it's built into our websites and CRM. But it's great to have this automated tour scheduling. You can set it to your availability, so it will only make your open times for touring available for the parent to actually register. What's also great about this is it's easy for the parent, but it's also easy for you because it adds it to your calendar automatically. You can see who has signed up. And it also sends parents reminders so that they don't forget about it and don't show up, and then you kind of expected to have a tour and you didn't. So it's just great to have automated tour scheduling. Like I said, throughout this entire process, what you really want to remember is to make it as seamless and easy as possible, because this is your prospective parents' kind of first encounter with you. So if you deliver valuable information, communicate, follow up effectively, and make tour scheduling a lot easier for parents, they're really going to start seriously evaluating your school. This is when the touring starts. This is really where you probably have the most fun because you get to discuss with parents. They're going to ask the interesting questions, and it's going to lead up to a very important decision, which is either enrollment or going elsewhere. So you want to make sure you can kind of close on that deal. So let's talk about evaluation, because for many prospective parents, seeing a Montessori classroom in action is what's going to ultimately sell them on the school, especially if they're visiting other types of models. They come into the Montessori classroom and it's beautiful. There's plants, everything is child size and beautiful, and it just makes sense. Everything kind of comes together in that moment for the parent. You really want to nurture your prospects at this point. So this is a part where you can see people face to face, or maybe you're doing Zoom tours as well. You're still kind of having a more personalized connection with the parent at this point. This is the point as well where you can check in with them. You can ask them questions about how they feel as well. And just make sure that they feel supported throughout the stage. Recognize that choosing a school is a difficult decision, and you're here to answer any questions that they may have, and you're available to them. Most schools already do this. It might be a little bit trickier during COVID, but consider offering observations and offer a guide if you can. So for parents who may not know what Montessori is or what it means to look at a Montessori classroom, a great thing to do in the lead up to a tour is to email them a guide, what to look for on a school tour. If you see children wiping windows, this is called practical life, and this is why they do that. So they feel like it kind of makes more sense rather than just kids doing random chores, and it all comes together. It's all part of a bigger purpose. So having an observation guide can really help you as well. Be prepared for more difficult questions during the stage. The cocktail party questions are over. They already know your opening hours. They already know your tuition. They want to know maybe how the transition is from Montessori to public school in the future if they choose to do that. They're going to be asking more elaborate questions at this stage. And parents are also going to inquire about the admissions process. They want to know, okay, we're interested. So what are the next steps now? So you want to make sure that you're really clear on the entire admissions process, how long it will take, what they need to do, what information you will need from them. You can also consider having a detailed guide ready for them after a tour. So you can just hand it to them and say, you know what, we're really happy to have you on a tour. We hope that you've enjoyed seeing what our school has to offer. Here is an admissions guide. So if you do choose to apply, this is a breakdown step by step of what you need to do. That's going to set you apart from the rest as well. And, at this part, really congratulate yourself because you've, possibly completed a school tour. You really helped the consumer from the top of the funnel all the way down to the bottom. You're able to get prospective parents to learn more about your school, gain interest, and actually genuinely come in and take a look to see if they would be a right fit. And now you can finally close the deal. And for those parents who decide to enroll with you, it's now really time to over deliver because they've made a really important decision in their child's life. And it's time to really reassure them that they've made the right one. So, this is really the time where you want to make it as supportive and clear as possible for the prospective parents. If you haven't already during the tour, you really want to outline the entire enrollment process, be as transparent as possible, and manage expectations. Communication is really key during this phase. So aim to over deliver and to just make the process as stress-free as possible for the parents. You want to make sure to just have everything on the table at this stage. I just want to revisit because again, this admissions funnel, the 6 steps, we like to break things down in marketing so we can understand the thought process that a consumer is going to have at each stage. But it doesn't necessarily mean that a parent is going to go through all 6 stages when they're actually applying for a school. But it's important to understand and identify what stage each parent is at and what they will need so you can anticipate what kind of questions they're going to ask, what kind of support they're going to need at each stage. You might have a parent who is immediately at a point of interest because they've known for a long time before they have kids that they want to consider Montessori only. And then they might automatically skip to evaluation because they're the kind of parent who may have time to tour every Montessori school in their area. So they might skip around, but it's important to really understand their thought process at each step so you can be supportive. So yeah, your ultimate goal at the end is to have families who are confident they made the right choice for their child in the Montessori space and who felt supported along the whole way. If they really felt like it was such a pleasure to come and apply at your school and be shown around and learn so much about Montessori and parenting, they're also going to go speak about it to their other parent friends. And they're just going to remember it being a seamless process from start to finish. And also, you can rest assured that you've also got families who are comfortable with you, who have had their questions answered, who are not going to have any surprises hopefully down the line, and who've had their expectations managed from the very start. So it might even make your job easier. We're going to open it up to questions. I'd love to hear your experiences with admissions. I'm also quickly actually going to see if I can share the Nido site as well. All right, I'm gonna exit out of this presentation. And let's take a look. Are you guys able to see this as well? Perfect. So this is just the Nido site. This is a sample kind of like master key of all of our of our school websites, we have a few things that you can personalize, but this is kind of how we feel a good Montessori website should be set up, and how it should be formed in a way that will actually help parents in this admissions process. As you can see, front and center, you have schedule a tour up here as well. So when they scroll down, they can still see the schedule a tour, which is your ultimate goal during the admissions process, is to get them into your classrooms. A little bit about the school mission, and they can kind of scroll down. They see very clearly what programs you offer. They don't have to dig around your website for ages to see what age groups you serve. They have reviews, because during the admissions process, parents are really going to be looking for social confirmation. They want to know what other people experience at your school. We're all social animals. We want to know what it's like for others. So it's great to have this on your website as well, if you can. Again, another visit us, schedule a tour reminder, because they're kind of deeper down the homepage here. And then you have also a really easy 3-step how to apply process. So you've got schedule a tour, submit application, join the community. It seems really, easy. You're not intimidating the parent, and you're being very clear. You've got the blog, so parents can learn about Montessori directly from your school. And here you have, for the parent who's gone all the way down this homepage, you have a way for them to learn even more. So you have a way for them to give you their email address and to download even more information about Montessori. So this is just a great example of just a really well-made website. But I just wanted to share with you all. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen now so I can see you guys, and we can kind of have an open conversation about admissions, what kind of steps you take in the admissions process that has been successful at your school. See, we have some things in the chat here. Let's see. Karen says we use the Nido CRM and I love it. I'm glad to hear that. That's really good. Jill also says we use Calendly. It's great. And that's also another option as well for automatic tour scheduling. I believe for those of you who are Montessori Thrive members, we also have a Calendly course that kind of gives you and if you don't know how to set that up, you can do that as well. All right, let's see here. Do we have another question?
I'm curious if how many of you actually think of, I know I did admissions for a while, and I used to think of admissions starting sort of what we call MUFU, which is middle of the funnel, which is really at the point where they're already fairly engaged and you're moving them along. But from a marketing perspective, as we saw, it's really starts before that. It's at that awareness stage. So, and then it actually goes further beyond enrollment, where now you've got the enrollment, but now you really need to nurture that new family so that they feel welcome and they feel part of the community. And then they turn into, basically ambassadors for your school in your community. So it's a life cycle kind of from when they first have this inkling of, they need to find a school for their child to they're out there promoting your school. Word of mouth is the best form of marketing. And I say that as a marketer. So anyway, I just wonder how many of you actually kind of have gone through the thought process of that funnel and given it some thought, or is this something new, a new way to think about it?
We have at our school, we actually do have a marketing team as our business partners that we work alongside, but we've really struggled with the funnel. The funnel is very different when it comes to a Montessori setting. And as an admissions director, I do experience that the funnel doesn't start in the exact same spot for everyone. And it's a great way to reference, even if you start mid-funnel, sometimes you do need to go a few steps back in order to ensure that that parent is getting all of that concrete information as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. We agree, Camille. It is a great, yeah. And that's why a model is great to reference, but it is good to consider because I think there's a lot of parents who are like, oh, I know Montessori is the right fit. I'm going to tour every Montessori, but they don't maybe know as much as they think that they do. And they need to revisit some of the information that you would normally share in the earlier stages.
Something I wanted to share that we've just recently implemented that we have found very helpful is at the end, once we close the tour and we have had families on board, we actually survey families 2 weeks after they have had the experience of being on site at the campus in order to evaluate if there was consistency with the onboarding process and the experience that they received at the school. And it was a great way for us to really reflect on our content delivery and if we were very aligned with what we were selling was what our client was actually experiencing.
That's great. It's great to have feedback, especially through a process like that, because it helps you kind of reassess and look back. Because I think it happens all too often that we kind of are like, what's going wrong? What's, where are people, where are there gaps in our process? So it's good to have those different experiences recorded and kind of go back and tweak, because this process also is going to change generation by generation. People will have different expectations. There will be different ways that people will find your information. Now it's almost entirely online. So it's good to have these forms kind of ready for you to reassess. So that's actually a great tip, and it'd be great to hear if other schools are doing that as well.
I have a question about tours. The surveys, did you do surveys for parents that came in to visit or specifically for parents that had applied?
So our process is that we initiated client surveys, which were done digitally through a platform. We're using Transparent Classroom currently. And what we would do is it was just for those families that had applied and had experience onboarding during the 2-week period. So it gave the child a chance to adjust, the family a chance to adjust as well. We record all of that data and we ensure that we reflect on that. And then we have a cadence. We want to ensure that we have a score in which would this family refer us to another family with the current experience that they did have. And this data has really brought a lot of knowledge as well to also the teachers. What do we need to be doing more of during that 2-week settlement? Do we need to be posting pictures? Do we need to be communicating more with families in more touch points, especially during the pandemic when we can't really be meeting with people face to face? So it was a great way for us to reflect as a staff, as well as how well are we communicating with our families and building that trust very early on.
Camille, this is Wally.
Hi, Wally.
Thank you for a nice presentation. It was very useful. There's one question that I want to bring up is that during the admissions funnel, one item that needs to be considered is whether or not a child and or the family is a good fit for the school. I mean, before you go ahead and just say enroll them, it may not clearly be. So where do you see that process, or is anybody has any feedback on that in terms of how do you go about determining? Because otherwise what happens, you admit them and they're not a good fit. It becomes a lot of heartache later on to try to manage that. Either it's just stressful for the teachers, leaves a bad with the parents and all that. So any thoughts on that would be helpful to know.
That's a great point, Wally. I think if you're looking at the funnel, I would say the evaluation phase, or where they're coming in for school tours, it's also your time to evaluate them as well, not just them evaluating your school. And this question is brought up so often in our community and in different groups. There's so many schools that have different processes for how they kind of screen families and children. But to work on and develop on a way that kind of works for your school. So maybe you have, some type of observation where the child comes into the Montessori space. Another key part of it is managing expectations, making it very clear what you can and what you can't do, and what resources you do have and what resources you don't have. I'd love to hear if anyone does some type of screening or some type of child visits during their admissions process as well.
I just want to say that I think it becomes more of an art than a science of when a family comes in, for their tour, or if it's virtual at this point, make it a point to really have some Q&A time with the parent. It's not just them observing the classroom and seeing your environments and, you know, your building, but it's a conversation, and it needs to be, and I used to be very upfront with parents. I would say, you know, even though Montessori is right for most children, it might not be right for most parents. So just I think, as Camilla said, communication and just really being clear about who you are and what you offer. And then after you do admissions for a while, you get a sense if it's going to work out. I mean, I see nodding heads. I mean, there are certain red flags that come up with, and you say, you know what, this is just not going to work out. And the delicate part is how do you, if they're still really excited about your school, how do you sort of guide them out of the process? I would love to have a conversation about that, because that's always a tricky thing, right? You can just say, oh, you know, we're going to put you on our wait list or whatever, but that's also not really totally honest, you know, if you know that like there's really not a good fit here. So, but the other point is, if, as Camilla mentioned, if you have in your process a time for the child to come in for, whether it's just a few minutes to meet with one of the guides, or if it's to spend a day in the classroom, or however you do that, also take advantage of that time to have the parent come in again. And you, as the admissions person, maybe meets with the parent again. And this is really when you're evaluating the family. Maybe the tour is more when they're evaluating you, but maybe when they come in for that visit, that second visit, that's when you're evaluating the family. So I don't think it would be a bad idea to have a list of questions that you ask. I don't know if, you know, I see some nodding heads too. So that's just kind of my 2 cents from my experience of doing admissions for a few years here. So I'd love to hear what other people, yeah.
Camille?
So yeah, I agree with what you're saying 100%. It's always a tricky situation. But as you said, we try to set the expectation during our virtual tour. We give people an opportunity to ask, because we do have them come in with their child, and they always ask, well, what are you looking for? What are you looking for? So we kind of preset them, like, this is the minimum we're looking for. And we also tell them at that point, we will be honest with you if we feel this is not the right place for your child. So we preset them. When they come and it's not a good fit, again, it's about adding value, right? You don't want them to leave with a bad taste in their mouth. It's always, you know, it's not nice to feel rejected or have your child feel rejected. So we try to be very clear about exactly why it wouldn't be a good fit, number one. And number two, we give them some resources that they can leave with. So we're not just like, we're rejecting you, goodbye, you know. We're like, hey, you might want to look into a play-based school, and here's a couple schools in our area that we've heard good things about and we think would be a better fit for you, so that they're not leaving, you know, they've invested all this time and then they're leaving with nothing, you know. So we do try to be honest and straightforward, give them the reasoning why, and then give them resources so that when they're leaving, it's not such a bad taste in their mouth. They have kind of like a resource to look into next.
Right. That's a great approach.
Bill made a good point. I think that's very important. I think we do the same thing in our case. One of the things that we have done is that we upfront make it clear that there is a tryout period for, like, I mean, we in our case we make it 3 months, which I think is a little bit too long. But there's a tryout period. At the end of that, we meet with them and say, okay, things are going fine and all that, and or things are not going well, and again try to nurture in terms of what we can do to help them transition to something else. But what I'm not sure if that period should be 3 months, 1 month, 2 weeks. Does anybody have a sense in terms of what might be a good time frame in which we should circle back with the parents?
Our school policy is 6 weeks.
6 weeks, yeah.
If someone else just said that too. If we kind of identify in the first couple of weeks even that someone may need a little bit of extra support, we don't say it's 6 weeks and stick to it. It's definitely more flexible, but our policy states 6 weeks.
Also, this conversation reminded me of a previous town hall we had a while back with Lee Sriat. She's incredible in this admission space as well. I'm going to drop the link to that recording because she talks about this part specifically, which is a little bit more of sensing out the red flags. She's been in the Montessori admission space for a few years and she has some great tips on it. So if you want to really dive deeper into this particular element of admissions, this recording is fantastic. The information that she shares is amazing. But yeah, it really is an important element for us to have the right families as well in our schools. Makes our life a lot easier.
Was that helpful, Wally?
Yes, that was very good. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Are there any questions or comments about admissions? I know admissions also has been a little bit more difficult in the past, I guess now almost 2 years with COVID, because you don't get as much face-to-face interaction and in-person tours are a little bit more difficult. So what kind of issues have you had to find resolutions for in the past year and a half with restrictions being made? Are you able to have in-person visits as well? I know some schools are doing that maybe after school hours, but again, it kind of loses its impact when you don't see the children working so beautifully in the classroom community. So and Valerie says something. Sorry, the link I shared is the recording on Montessori Thrive. Is it working? I'm not sure if it's working for everyone, but it's on our Montessori Thrive member site. All of our recordings go there. So sorry, it's not posted publicly on YouTube. So maybe perhaps that's why. Sorry, Valerie.
Well, I was just going to ask if what are some strategies that you use after someone, a newly enrolled family, to kind of welcome them to the community, to acclimate them? Do you maybe have some families that they can, I don't know what the word is, partner with or whatever, to say, if you have any questions, you can go talk to this family. Not that they couldn't come to you as well, but anyway, just do you have a set process there, and maybe what has worked well for other schools? Anybody?
I was just going to talk, just mention that it's just that I felt it was also important to just keep those parents, those new enrolled parents, in sync with us or in link with us until they really can start school, because very often we start in enrollment in February or March, but then school start only in July or August. So I try to keep sending them articles or invite them to some fundraiser that we have. We have also some parents that we call parents ambassadors. So we send the emails, contact or phone numbers contact to those new parents, and they can just start to have play dates and things like this. And one thing that was also, I love all your tips and things like this. It's been very helpful. Thank you. During my school tour, I also tell the parents what we expect out of the parents. We expect parents that would be allowing their children to be as independent as possible, and So I think that also helps to down the road when we have to sit down with the parents, say, hey, it's not working. They're already kind of ahead of time. They know more of what we were expecting, and it's not a hard feeling when we say, it's not working out, because they kind of already knew what to expect.
Mm-hmm. That's great. I know at my school, my old school, we have a partnership agreement that is part of the enrollment documentation that parents sign. And it's really, this is what you can expect from the school, and this is what we expect from you as a parent. And it's bullet points, and it's very clear. It's just, Karen, it's just one page, right? Yeah, it's not really long, but and that would probably be a good resource to put on Thrive, I think, too, because it just lays it out, and they're required to sign it. So hopefully they've read it. It's only one page, but, and that's getting more into the, the nuts and bolts of like, this is really what we expect of you. But I guess also I was thinking more of the, like you were mentioning, Valerie, the kind of keeping them engaged, especially, you're right. I mean, so a family might be accepted in February and it's 8 months later before they're actually in your school. I know we used to invite them to any parent eds that we were having, so they could, back when they were in person. If you have, and not to, keep promoting Thrive, but we do these online parent eds too, that any member school can send. You can send those invites to prospective parents too. I think that's a great resource. And but to, if you're publishing a blog, make sure they're getting, the weekly or monthly, whatever, emails with that information to just kind of keep them engaged. But I think also a really important piece is to connect them with other people in the community. And so to do what you can in that regard, because that's really when those friendships form among parents, that's what really, I think, ties the family to the school and the community.
Right, we're getting towards the end of our hour. If you have any last final questions or comments, feel free to ask them now. Also going to bring up our topic for next week. For those of you who wish to see our town hall next week, it's going to be at the same time. It's the same registration link as this one. We're going to be joined by two incredible Montessorians, Lorna McGrath and Tim Selden. They've just released a new book about Montessori parenting and how you can actually really parent with Montessori principles and what that looks like. And they're going to talk about how to kind of bridge that gap between school and home life through parent education. They've got years of parent education experience under their belt as well. And they help schools all across the country with this topic as well. So you're going to have the opportunity to hear from them firsthand and ask them questions. So we hope to see you guys there next week as well. And it's a free and open link, so feel free to share with any other Montessori leaders who you think would really benefit from listening in. All right, well, if there are no final questions, if you come up with any questions, you can drop them in our Facebook group or just email us. We're always happy to answer anything. But thank you all so much for joining us and sharing some incredible information as well with us about the admissions process. We always learn from you guys as well. So have a fantastic rest of your Thursday and a great week as well. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Good day, everyone.
You too.